like you. Be strong to hold the powers of the sun.
Let's listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. Now, in this episode, I've got some information that I believe the defense would like to have. So, Ann Taylor and team, pay attention to this one, because I found something interesting in a very old article that relates to discovery that they won't seem to give you in this case and how they should absolutely have it for you. But it relates to the discovery around missing video footage in the most interesting place in this case. And we're going to get into that. And I've also got an article from here not too long ago where it's the state's federal attorney discussing, the most important things in Idaho's criminal outlook that they're trying to tackle. So I'm going to read you a little bit of that article, let you see what you can glean from that, but then we're going to get into that old article on our Idaho 4 case, and I'm going to show you some stuff that is very important. So stay tuned to this one, and I'm not going to keep you from it. We're going to jump right into it. So hold on to your hats, folks. This one's going to get interesting. Okay, so here's the first article, and you can see it says Idaho Feds, the Feds, Department of Justice, their to-do list. And this is dated July 22nd, 2024. So this was back in the summer. But the Fed's to-do list in Idaho was to target elder abuse and cripple the state's most infamous gang. Wonder who that could be. Now, in the effort to cripple one of the most notorious gangs in Idaho history is heading where law enforcement had hoped, a federal courtroom. And the man in charge at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Idaho know the case all too well. And this is our little young guy, Josh Hurwitz. We seen him when they took down, a bunch of people for trafficking not long ago. We watched a video. But he says, I was a lead prosecutor on the case before I became U.S. Attorney, and it has been making its way through the system since then, said Josh Hurwitz, U.S. Attorney for the District of Idaho. It's been a complex investigation. I bet it has. See, Josh Hurwitz, he was part of the prosecuting team that was prosecuting the leadership of the Aryan Knights that was indicted back in 2019. Since then, he has been promoted to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Idaho. So he went from a state prosecutor to a federal prosecutor. And you can bet his mission, once that transition took place, has been to take down the Aryan Knights of Idaho. That's why when I say this thing is bigger than you can possibly imagine, this is things that I'm pointing to suggest that, okay? But Hurwitz visited the Morning Edition host George Prentice to talk about the case against the Aryan Knights, the infamous white supremacist gang operating inside the walls of Idaho prisons. Hurwitz also updates listeners on one of his office's other high priorities, and that's elder abuse. And we're going to skip the elder abuse because it doesn't pertain to our case, okay? And we're going to go right to the part about the Knights. Okay, let's see. Here we go, and here's his interview. Wow, before I let you go, I have to ask about Aryan Knights. Only because we have been reading more and more about this gang operating inside the walls of Idaho prisons. And most recently, you have secured another conviction, or at least another one of the suspects pleading guilty. What? What do you tell a stranger about the Aryan Knights? It's a white supremacist gang within the prison, right? Yep. That's the very quick summary, says Hurwitz. It's been operating in Idaho prison facilities for decades now. Our case that we're wrapping up was indicted in 2019 against 10 defendants. I know it well, actually. I was the lead prosecutor on the case before I became U.S. Attorney. And it's been making its way through the system since that time. Took a long time. Since that time. Took a long time, as you can tell. For a variety of reasons. A complex investigation. A complex case. At this time, what are we told about how the Idaho 4 investigation is a what? A very complex investigation and a very complex case. At this time, we're pleased to report, though, that all of the 10 defendants that were indicted have now pleaded guilty. 2 are yet to be sentenced in the upcoming months. And their MO is intimidation and violence? Yes. You don't say. Essentially, yes. And also drug smuggling. That's something that maybe people don't understand occurs within the prison system. It's a huge problem that the FBI and IDOC, the Idaho Department of Corrections, are working together on as we speak. And something we'll continue to prosecute as federal crimes occur. But essentially, the Aryan Knights would obtain power over other inmates through extortion, through threats of violence, through actual violence. One of the defendants in our case was charged and pleaded guilty to an attempted murder. And now he has a life sentence in federal prison. So one of the goals of the case was to break up the gang within the walls of the state prison and disperse them throughout the country to federal prisons. There's still more work to be done when it comes to this gang, you don't say. But we're very proud of the work that's occurred in my office in this 10 defendant case. And there are still some sentencings coming up, yes? That's correct. I believe we have one in August and then one in October. And that will mark the conclusion of this case, which was brought under the RICO Act. But as I said, we continue to work very closely and collaboratively with the IDOC and the FBI to address any federal crimes that occur in our prison system in Idaho. How do you best characterize this? Have you wounded this gang? Have you crushed this gang? You know, I think time will tell, to be perfectly blunt with you, but I certainly think we broke up the leadership at the time. I don't think that it's as powerful and organized and strong as it was, but it certainly still exists and is a threat within the system. And there's also individuals that work with the gang outside of the prison, which is a very concerning and something that we're focused on prosecuting. I bet you are. And to be clear, one of your most recent guilty pleas was with one of the leaders of the gang. So you're going right to the head of the monster, if you will. You know, the 10 individuals that we indicted were essentially the leadership structure. And the individual that just pleaded guilty on James Ramsey was the overall leader in the time leading up to our indictment. So they took out James Ramsey. That's probably when Mead and Uppenauer stepped up. And, you know, we're pleased to see justice served for him, and in this case in general. Congratulations on that, and thank you for what you do every day. And he is Josh Hurwitz, the United States Attorney for the District of Idaho. And Mr. Hurwitz, thank you so much for giving me some time. Yeah, there's key words in there. Gang outside of prison, which is very concerning and something that we're focused on prosecuting. And how about this RICO Act, right? They're working with the FBI in the RICO Act. You don't think there was already a federal grand jury investigating this stuff before this happened, folks? I don't know how much more evidence I can give to that. But I thought that was very interesting. I hope you did too. Now we're going to get into some real craziness. So yeah, on that. But now we're going to get into the second part, which is another old article that I found as it relates to the atrocity on King Road. And there's a couple of very interesting aspects of this. I've heard everything it says in this article, but I've never, except for a couple of things that I'm going to show you, but I've never really seen it put in this particular order. And it's just very strange how it reads at first. Now, we've all heard about the guy on the bicycle that, threatened the students there on the Paradise Trail with the knife, a few hours before the atrocity. But when you look at stuff like that, especially the way that this article reads, Ann Taylor has a smorgasbord of reasonable doubt from alternative suspects in this case, I assure you. And people keep saying, well, Pavarotti, what are you going to do if it's a trial? They don't bring up Aryan Knights and the Aryan family. I could care less. I could care less what's brought up at trial. You know what I want brought up at trial? I want the best possible defense brought up at trial because I know this kid didn't do it. And I'm currently working on a video that all but proves it. But I could care less. She can point to alternative suspects with the little midget that broke into the house in Pullman and had a steak knife in his hand, with those roommates. Or she can bring up the guy in the park with the knife. She can bring up the fact that the family snitched on people and everybody was sitting around waiting for an incident to happen. It doesn't matter to me what she brings up. So people always think in terms of themselves and then they try to project that on me. I don't care. I want the most effective defense because I want a not guilty verdict because the kid didn't do it. So for all you out there that keep asking that question and saying that, get out of your own heads. Get out of yourself. The world doesn't revolve around you, and I don't think the world revolves around me. So don't project your thoughts onto me. I want the best defense possible. So anyway, all that to the side. As we get into this next article, though, I think you're going to see when I read the first part how ridiculous the thought of Bryan Kohbegers doing this, number one, being the prime suspect is. But then as I read the second part, that's the part that the defense, they actually need this article. Because the second part's going to discuss something in detail that the defense can't seem to get in discovery, and it's the most important discovery in this case, in my humble opinion. So let's get into it. All right, so when we look at this article, and this is from, I don't even know who this article is from. It's Low Dodge, San Francisco, Rachel Sharp. But timeline, what we know so far about the murder of the 4 University of Idaho students. Officials say the students were killed between 3 and 4 a.m. On Sunday morning, just hours after one of them posted smiling photos on Instagram. So this article was Wednesday, the 23rd of November, 2022. And look how this thing reads. You know what? I didn't even really read most of this. The term begins August, Monday the 22nd. Everybody's back in school. Now look at this. It starts with the 12th of September. Knife threat on campus. Just how this reads is crazy. The university's security issued a vandal alert to the students and staff, warning them about an assailant armed with a knife. The warning, described as a threat with a knife, reported that a group of students had been walking through the campus when the man threatened them with a knife. The Moscow Police Department received a report that a group of students was walking between the steam plant parking lot, number 14, and the Student Recreation Center on Paradise Path, and were threatened by a person with a knife, it read. The assailant was described as a white male, aged 18 to 22 years old, who was dressed all in black. No one was harmed in the incident, but officials felt the need to alert students and staff to the threat taking place in what is a notoriously safe small town where no murders have been reported since 2015. And we know that's because, they cover them up. And this is a notoriously safe small town. Yeah, why don't you read the jail rosters every now and again? You'll see how safe that little small town is. But it goes right from, this is what, everybody's mindset was on November 23rd. Oh, crap, we got this vandal alert about this guy dressed in black, 18 to 22 years old with a knife, threatening students in a path, to November 12th. And then it starts to talk about November 13th, all the stuff that we basically know about the case. But I just thought that was really interesting how the way the news was reporting it back then was vandal alert about the guy with the knife threat in September, right to, okay, here's the atrocity, and she sees a guy dressed in black with a knife. But that's not what I really want to show you in this article, because it's going to discuss something down here that is very, very important. And I mean very important. Let's see, where is it at? Autopsy findings were revealed. Suspects ruled out. And it talks about them ruling out Jack D and the frat boys here. The grub truck, the food truck surveillance camera. Family gives a second press conference. The family gave a lot of press conferences. Or police give not family. Police give a second press conference, my bad. Oh. Victims' phone activity revealed families decry conspiracies. Now, this is interesting. She also told the New York Times that her family stand behind Jack 100%, and he knows absolutely nothing, and he has absolutely nothing to do with this at all. And then meanwhile, parents of the victims have decried conspiracy theories from internet sleuths saying they were harmful to the actual investigation into the killings. So this is back when J-Rod on Point was calling the Moscow Police Department, telling them Jack D did it. And the families had to actually go out and make a press conference saying he didn't do it, it has nothing to do with it, and quit messing with the investigation, you're causing trouble. So that dude has been actually causing trouble in the case since way back then. But let's see. Moore's ruled out about the 911 calls. I'm not even going to get into that one right now. Oh, wait a minute. No, this is the one. This is it. This is it right here. Okay. Moscow police announced new details about the role of the victims' roommates who were likely home at the time of the murder. Gonzalez, Mogan, and Kernodle shared a rental with two roommates who arrived back home around 1 a.m., according to police, not long before the murders are thought to have taken place. However, once the roommates were home, they fell asleep and didn't wake up until later on November 13th, Moscow police said, helping to explain why a 911 call was not made until noon later that day. So back then, of course, we know that the Moscow police said that they went to sleep after 1 when they got home, and that's why they didn't wake up until, noon the next day. Well, we know now that that's a lie, so that does not explain why the call wasn't made until noon later that day. That call was made from inside the residence of the roommates' cell phones, police added. Authorities added that the surviving roommates had summoned friends to the home because they believed one of the victims had passed out. Now, we all know that's a load of crap now, too. It's unclear if they saw the crime scene before making the call. Yeah. During a press conference on Sunday, authorities said that the two surviving roommates, a male seen on a Twitch video that's also featured Gonzalez and Mogan at the food truck hours before the murders, and an individual who drove the two of them home that night are not considered suspects. Investigators also said they're seeking surveillance footage from 2 areas of interest. Okay, now I want you, the defense actually needs this right here. Investigators also said they're seeking surveillance footage from 2 areas of interest around the city of Moscow as they hunt for the knife-wielding assailant who stabbed 4 University of Idaho students to death inside their off-campus home. Businesses and homes within the geographical areas, these 2 areas of interest, are being asked to share all outside surveillance video taken between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. on the 13th of November, whether there appears to be motion and content or not. Okay, so we're going to have to focus in real hard. Again, the defense needs this because it talks about 2 areas of interest around the city. They want the video from 3 to 6 a.m. on the 13th of November. And they don't care if there's motion or on the content or not. Investigators have determined the 2 areas of interest within the city and have provided maps, which are on our Facebook page and on our website. So they not only told everybody where their areas of interest were to get the videos, but they provided maps of those areas. Roger Lanier, operations captain of Moscow Police Department, said at a press conference on Sunday, and these are areas that they have canvassed for additional surveillance video and tips and have contacted several residents in the area. So these are areas they have canvassed for additional surveillance video and tips and have contacted several residents in the area. Captain Lanier, that means the Moscow PD has canvassed these areas. Now here's the big reveal. The areas include West Taylor Avenue, north boundary, West Palouse River Drive, south boundary, Highway 95 south to the 2700 block of Highway 95 south, east boundary, and Arboretum, I can't say it, Arboretum, and Botanical Gardens west boundary. Now, when you take these boundaries of where they were looking for, and it says they've contacted all the people in those areas, they've collected all that video. The times that they're focused on is between 3 and 6 a.m. on the 13th of November. And those are the 2 biggest areas of interest in the Idaho 4 case for the investigators at that time. And this was on November 23rd, 2022. Or actually, this was on November 20th, 2022. Wait till you see what I'm about to show you. Okay, so here is a map of the areas that they said that law enforcement was focusing on November 20th. And you can see up here, this is where they said the the west part of Taylor Avenue, which would be this blue line, all the way down to the west part of Palouse River Drive, which is this blue line. So in between these 2 red lines and these 2 blue lines is area 1 of interest that they were focusing on and collecting video. But then you've got area 2 of interest, which includes everything below this blue line from, it said, the Botanical Gardens right here and down to the 2700 block of Highway 95 South, which would be right here at this Larry Bird place. But when you look at what all this entails here in just a minute, and you remember that they were already canvassing and looking for video in this area between 3 and 6, I'm going to show you something very shocking. First of all, when we look at the north quadrant, that basically encompasses the King Road neighborhood and everything below it. And we know that after their video canvassing, that they located videos of, both of the Linda Lane cameras, supposedly this 1112 camera, which I believe probably isn't even a camera at all. It probably is motion activated and takes still shots of things. There's some camera that they supposedly have found on Walenta, and then we know now that there's a camera on Ridge Road where they captured something. Now, as far as we know, no other video was captured in this area. But when we look at the South Quadrant, that's where this thing gets crazy. So here is that South Quadrant. And you can see over here is the Botanical Gardens. And it would go from West Palouse River Drive. So that would start right here. And then it goes down to the 2700 block of Highway 95 South, which is this building right here. So it said that the law enforcement had already contacted all the businesses in that area to obtain their video footage. And it said between the times of 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. is what they collected. Look what this quadrant actually contains. And basically that's all it contains. You've got right here is Gypsy Java and their video. Right here, Monday's Machine and their video. Right here is Wasson Cares Construction and their video. Nestled in between is Germer Construction's office building. And then down here is the end of that quadrant, which is this Larry Bird thing. And it is the 2700 block. Now, they never mentioned any video footage from Larry Bird, but we'd only have to go back to a hearing where the defense was looking for missing discovery for Monday's Machine, Wasson Cares Construction, and Gypsy Java. And what was the result of that hearing?
And are you aware that one of the videos that you gave us, the coffee shop that they are on South 95, that leaving Moscow, you'd have to pass that covers 5 a.m. to 6 a.m.
I do not recall the time frame for that.
And so the time frame in these videos would matter, right?
Certainly.
The time frame in the videos to be meaningful would need to cover a time that surrounds the allegations against Mr. Kohberger. Is that fair to say?
You can say that, yes.
Okay. And are you aware that Wasson Cares Construction had a video, and that also has a very limited time frame, like 5 a.m., just 1 hour of video also?
Sounds vaguely familiar, yes.
And that's also south on Highway 95. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the one we talked about today, Monday's Machine, that nobody could find, that clearly was given to Moscow Police Department, that's also south on 95.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I understand that you had a lot of help on canvassing and collecting things. There was a lot to do. But as the lead agent and the lead department, is there some kind of inventory of these?
So even the news was reporting on November the 20th that the focus of law enforcement's investigation and what they were doing as far as canvassing for video, they said this is the area that they're focused on, the area that contained Gypsy Java, Monday's Machine, and Wasson Cares Construction's video. And it said in the news report, the law enforcement was searching for video between 3 and 6 a.m. But then you hear Ann Taylor grilling Brett Payne on the stand and him trying to play dumb, even though you could tell as he answered one of those questions that he wasn't just playing dumb. He was like, yeah, you got me. That Monday's Machine, that video's been disappeared altogether. Gypsy Java and Wasson Cares Construction, well, that video has been produced, but it starts at 5 a.m., not 3 a.m. So that's discovery that the defense really wants, that is obviously somebody has taken and hidden that stuff or got rid of it or cut it out and produced only the time frame that they wanted to produce. That is a huge thing for the defense that they've been seeking in discovery. they could probably use that article that I just pulled up to put even more emphasis on the fact that law enforcement not only should have that video footage, but it was a focus of their investigation to get that video footage. That's big. And Taylor and team, there you go. But now we're going to get into my thoughts on it. And I'm going to be real careful because I have had people say here lately, well, you seem to present your opinion like it's fact, Pavarotti. Well, it's kind of hard not to, but I may put a little bit too much reliance on my disclaimer at the beginning of this video that says I'm going to provide information and then I'm going to give you my opinion on the information I provide. So this is just my opinion. But as I paint my opinion, how you could come to a conclusion that it's that it's not correct, I have no idea. Because what have I said so many times in this case? Mr. Farley is a big part of this scenario. Now, those 3 videos that are missing before 5 a.m., would it be that important for law enforcement, a specific person I believe in law enforcement, to collect that video and then eliminate the time frames before 5 a.m. because it was somehow not incriminating to Bryan Kohbeger? I mean, the only thing that could show of Bryan Kohbeger's car is maybe it didn't go that direction. If they had Bryan Kohbeger's car on that video footage going that direction, then they would absolutely produce it. I mean, heck, here it is. Here he is leaving, going south on 95. So when, that ping picked him up down there in Genesee, here's video proof that that's the area that he was headed to. So we know it didn't contain that. But would they go through all the trouble to eliminate that video just because his vehicle wasn't driving south on 95 right then? Doesn't make much sense because there was other routes that, if it was Bryan Kohbeger's car that he could have taken to get to that same spot in Genesee. So police going and eliminating that video footage for that doesn't hold water. But does it hold water if the real assailants were ascending and descending upon the King Road residents from south on Highway 95, in my humble opinion, from Wasson Cares construction? Because it's just a little bit too much of a coincidence for me that Germer Construction, Tyson Farley's uncle's business that he worked at, we've got public record proof that that's where he worked, just happens to be nestled in between Mundy's Machine and Wasson Cares Construction. It's actually part of the complex. Now, I've tried to figure out, how does the Wasson Cares thing correlate to the Germer Construction thing? And I think I've got it figured out, in my humble opinion. Let me share it with you, shall we? Okay, so this is the complex in question right here. You can see this business right here is Mundy's Machine. And then this business over here is the office anyway for Wasson Cares Construction. And then this vast labyrinth of salvaged buildings, materials, cars, all kinds of stuff is part of the Wasson Cares Construction salvage yard. It's another world in itself, and it's a lot bigger than this, but I just wanted to keep this map as small as I could. But then we've got right here in the middle, this little building right here is the Germer Construction building, where we have verified that Mr. Farley works for his uncle. But it's always been kind of a curious thing to me is, would he have access to this vast labyrinth of salvage material as part of Germer Construction? I mean, why would the Wasson Cares let them, have access to all of this? And I did a lot of research into the Wasson Cares, and I think those people are probably excellent people. I don't think they do anything nefarious. I think they just have a cool business where they resell salvaged properties and salvaged goods. So let me show you. Here are, the Wasson Cares, and this is their place and their business encompasses this gigantic salvage yard. Now look back here, you see these dump trucks dumping dirt and gravel, and then they obviously have a lot of tractors and things around there as well. Well, let me explain how I think that Farley and the gang get access to everything in the sweet little Wasson Cares place here. You see, the main thing that they sell is recycled stone, concrete, brick, and other reclaimed items. And when you have a business like this that is basically a big salvage yard of reclaimed items, especially from construction, well, you have to have a supplier to supply you with all of this stuff for you to sell. So that is my best, it is my informed opinion that the reason the business relationship works so well with Wasson Cares Construction and Germer Construction, so well that Germer Construction built a office on the Wasson Cares complex, is because Germer Construction is an excavating company. What they do is excavate the ground. So any gravel, dirt, they can bring to Wasson Cares' place for him to resell. Any structures that they take down and they're able to salvage, stone, concrete, rock, anything, they can bring to the Wasson Cares place, and then they can resell it. The King Road residence was taken apart and removed by Germer Construction because Mr. Germer's best friend's is Scott Green. It's in the public record. And he gave his friend the contract to remove the King Road residence, which is absolutely insane considering Tyson Farley works for his uncle, Mr. Germer, and it's very possible that Farley was working the excavator that took down the King Road residence. But you can bet that that King Road residence ended up in that complex at Wasson Cares Construction. So that would be why Germer Construction employees would have full access to Wasson Cares' entire complex, because when they're excavating jobs and bringing the materials back to Wasson Cares, they would need access to everything in there to be able to take it and dump it so that Wasson Cares had a steady flow of product that he could fix up and resell. So why would Mr. Farley have full access along with the other assailants to Wasson Cares' complex? That is why, in my humble opinion. And that is why, in my humble opinion, that somebody in law enforcement went to all of those cameras and removed the footage either altogether or before 5 a.m. It wasn't because they couldn't catch Bryan Kohbegers' car going south on 95. It's because they caught all of the assailants' vehicles going south on 95 and pulling into Wasson Cares Construction before 5 a.m. Somebody had to go and remove that footage, or else that would have been visible for everybody to see. And the one person that I believe would have done that is the person that actually has the closest relationship to Farley and is in law enforcement and has a history of removing video footage, as you can see with the Stickergate incident that happened not long before that. I actually heard some moron the other day say that my theory didn't hold water because the more you investigate and look into something, the more the information becomes unreliable. Like, what? The more you look into something and the more you investigate something, the information becomes unreliable. So you should just not look into stuff and just look at the face value of things and just talk about them over and over. This is apparently what he's suggesting. I don't know what to say, but I do know this. The defense team needs that. They need that article, because when they're hammering the discovery in the January 23rd motion about the discovery that they haven't received, those videos, you know, they haven't been turned over, because they took the footage out. So when she's talking about those videos in this January 23rd hearing that they have not received, she can cite the article from the major news network that was reporting and talking to a source inside Moscow Police Department that said that was the area they were focusing on. They were looking for video footage for those exact areas between 3 and 6 a.m. So to be able to point that out and then point out the fact that Brett Payne didn't even know where that area really was, when that was the area of focus of the investigation at that point in time. Their whole focus was to go to those businesses and get that camera footage. And then they put him on the stand and he said, I don't know where Mundy's machine is. And, oh yeah, Wasson Car. Yeah, I vaguely remember all that. Moron, you vaguely remember what? That was the whole focus of your investigation. And then when you received that video, either it wasn't there or it had been manipulated. Maybe that's why you felt so kind of uneasy on the stand, because you know that one of your brothers in blue did something with that video and you probably don't know why. Well, I think we all know now. But anyway, please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's out.
I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules. My